Reds out there, strap in because this is going to be a good Thursday for most of us because we are going to be talking a little bit about Liverpool's winter. That might be a good winter for some of us, or at least some of us thinking it's good winter. It's going to be also having some bad aspects too. So we're going to talk about a little bit good and bad today. We've got Salah's AFCON release talks with Egypt. We've got potential relief up top with Alexander Isak edging back towards returning to the team. We've got Arne Slot's subtle system reset paying off. We've even got a interesting ally to Virgil van Dijk's defense when it comes to defending his, I guess, honor, if you want to call it that. But Rio Ferdinand siding with Virgil van Dijk in the Rooney debate. Transfer smoke around Nico Schlotterbeck. We're going to have a little conversation as to whether if you think Nico Schlotterbeck versus Marco Guehi is the debate to have. And yes, we are going to talk about something that really, it doesn't really matter in the sense of the impact or the outcome of the game. It wasn't impacted by the decision in the end. However, we're going to talk a little about that baffling VAR handball reversal against Real Madrid. It's going to some interesting insight has just come out. And it was a very interesting article that I got to read. And I found it very interesting enough to include it in today's talk. And we'll be doing a Manchester City preview later this week, or probably Friday, if not Saturday. But tonight we cut through the noise, we set priorities, you know how we do. We map out how Liverpool stay competitive across all of the fronts. Well, 3 of the fronts now, not for all of them. Shout out to Edward, by the way. Big up, big up. But yeah, drop your 3-word headline for this week in the chat. You know, mine are the 3 Ds, and that's discipline, diplomacy, and daring. We got to have a little bit of all that to this week to kind of get through it. So I'm just going to jump right into it because I think the most important topic at least for today is going to be Salah versus Egypt. And what I mean by that is Salah versus Egypt, the AFCON release chess match is what I'm calling it, because Mohamed Salah is set for a showdown of talks with the Egyptian FA about his AFCON release. Now, what I mean by that is Egypt's camp begins December 12th, while Liverpool face Inter. We're going to have Brighton that week. The tournament runs December 21st to January 18th. That's over a month that he could possibly be out of commission for our needs. If Egypt go the distance, Mohamed Salah could miss up to 10 matches across league, across cups, and across Europe. That's a lot of games. We've lived this tension before. I get it. We've gone through whether it's been with, sometimes we had to live it with not only Salah, but we had to live it with Mane. But club form versus national duty, injury risk versus legacy is some of the things you might have to weigh. Here's the truth. Liverpool can ask, they can negotiate, they can even plead. But the ultimate decider in this is Egypt. The Egypt FA is the ultimate decider as to what is the future of Mohamed Salah and those dates that I mentioned earlier. The best outcome, we'll have a staggered release. Staggered release that respects the FIFA window, but keeps Mo available for at least Inter Milan with elite load management to protect him ahead of the Morocco game that he's going to have to engage in. Slot's praise matters here too, because he's just heightened Mo's value beyond goals. His ball retention under long exits. He's talked about defensive shifts next to Virgil, and the intangible gravity he brings. That's why this is delicate. He's not just a scorer. He's a system pressure valve that we are able to to turn up the volume or turn up the tension or not on. And yes, you know what? Salah hasn't always played well after returning from Egypt, and also sometimes he's taken knocks. He's gotten knocks from participating in Egypt because unfortunately in Egypt, or not just Egypt, excuse me, in Africa, some of the pitches that he plays on, some of the countries and the pitches that they play on, aren't exactly the best of conditioned pitches. They're not the most ideal pitch for a professional at his level to be playing on. So it's a real question as to what is going to happen with our right wing, our Egyptian king. But I'll ask you this in the chat: if Mo misses 8 to 10 games, who do you put in as that replacement? I think personally, I've been proposing this since last AFCON, to be honest with you. And that was, I would like to see Dominic Szoboszlai in the right wing. I know that might be weird. Some might say Chiesa. I get that, Edward, completely. But why I'm saying Dominic Szoboszlai is this. If you were to put Dominic Szoboszlai in that right wing role, which he's played before for Hungary, which he's capable of doing, which is what I was hoping to be able to get to see in Klopp's last year. Unfortunately, when Mohamed Salah went away for AFCON, not only did he get injured in AFCON that year, but even when he went away, as he went away for AFCON, Dom got injured himself. He had it pulled up of a hamstring injury. And that was problematic, obviously, because it took away his opportunity to show us what he can do from that side. Now, we've seen Dom play on the left wing, okay? We've seen him play in a left wing role before. He did decent, not something that you would write home about, but he did decent. I think the right wing would be a more natural side for him. I also think that he would be, by having him on the right wing, my suggestion, at least for my interpretation and suggestion from the tactics perception of it all, is by having him on the right wing, you now allow for Wirtz to get into that midfield. And we could have a midfield of Gravenberch, Maka, Gravenberch, and Wirtz in that midfield. And then you can have Dominic Szoboszlai on that right wing. It's that simple. That's at least how I see it. It should be interesting to see what happens, though, with that. I'm interested to see if we end up which direction we end up going. It's a long way till December, even a long way till January, really. But December is when we're going to have to see it because, again, unfortunately for us, the December 21st is when the tournament runs from. So December 21st to January 18th, most teams are going to be calling in their recruits a week prior to that December 21st date. So you'll see recruits start to filter in on the 12th and 13th and those dates for the African teams. I don't know. I'm really interested to see where he ends up deploying, where we end up deploying Dom, or if not, who we deploy in that right wing role off. It could be Chiesa's big opportunity as well, though. And Edward's right about that. Chiesa has been, actively one of the most underappreciated players by this coach. Certainly not by the fan base. He has grown on this fan base, I believe, immensely. There's some of us that not only recognize his talent, but didn't get into the lazy punditry, basically, of thinking that, he was washed before we actually got to see him play. So it should be interesting. with what happens and how it goes down. I would say that. What do you think? I have one shot for Chiesa. Is anybody else out there at least give me a thumbs up on the Chiesa shout? I mean, am I alone, or excuse me, on the Dominic Szoboszlai shout? Am I alone on that one, or is there? Do you play Cody Gakpo on that side, which we've done once or twice before? Do you play? Is there do you play Frimpong maybe in that right wing role? We've seen him play there once or twice before. To mixed reviews, I'd say. So I'd like to see what you guys think about that. If you can, if you don't have the ability to put it in the chat, it's all good. You can definitely tell me in the comments what you think and how you feel about it. I definitely would appreciate it if you guys interact with me on that front. It should be interesting because my take is I'm looking at a safeguard for Inter. I don't want to go into that Inter match without Mohamed Salah. It's a very important matchup for us. If we could get that 12-point, if we could get to the 12-point status, or actually by that time we would have gotten to possibly the 15-point status because we have PSV before that. If we can get to, if we can pick up 3 more points off of Inter, we could arguably see us be assured a top 8 placement. And that's all we all want to see primarily for right now is to get into that top 8, get through, not have to worry about going into that knockout phase of the Champions League that they have now, where if you're outside of that top 8 and you're from place 9 all the way, I believe, up to 16. So that's at least my take. But I'd like to hear from you, and I hope that you will give me some of your answers that you guys have on your minds. Let's move on then to segment 2, which would be Isak's status. That would be a surprise tailwind for. It could be a surprise tailwind for City. Look, Graham Potter, who is now the Sweden head coach, says Alexander Isak is available for national duty and may feature versus Manchester City. I don't think that a 90-minute call up is being looked at as being something you could see. I thought Sweden was eliminated from World Cup possibilities. So if I'd have to double check on that. Let me see. I'll even look as we speak to tell you the truth. But let me see. I'm going to do a quick check. All right, Sweden. World Cup qualifications. Because that makes a difference. I know that he can still go. But I don't want to see him go if it's not necessary. They had 3 defeats. Let's see. I think they are. I'm trying to see if they are. You tell me, people. You tell me. Since Google doesn't want to cooperate apparently and give me an answer. Because I know that was pretty much a wrap when they played against Kosovo. But it is good news about Isak. Isak's gravity forces center backs to stagger and fullbacks to think twice. You know how it is when you're a celestial. When it comes to center forwards, at least, it makes them think twice about leaving those gaps. Okay, so they have a playoff thing because of the Nations League. Okay, so even at 70%, his timing and deceptive movements, we call them, create second balls for Wirtz in late edge looks for McAllister or Dominic Szoboszlai, or maybe even if we get lucky, maybe even they open up the pitch for Hugo, which I'm still hoping, that we get to see. I'm still hoping that we get this emphasis on trying to have two center forwards up front. But it is big. It is big because basically Graham Potter said that he's available to feature. Slot has to be cautious with this. He doesn't want to, go too far with it. I think especially if Hugo is in form and he has been lately, I don't think you chance bringing him on. I don't think that he'll start. I think he's hinted that as well, that he's not going to probably start him. If Isak makes the bench, that's a bigger question. And I would say if he gives us 20, 30 minutes of impact minutes, fantastic. However, I'd be interested to see if that 20 to 30 minutes is impact minutes with Hugo on the pitch, or if it's 20 to 30 minutes of Isak providing relief for Hugo off the bench. That's a big question because that changes how City defends Liverpool in those half spaces and those channels late on. Because whether they're pushing for an actual equalizer or pushing for the go-ahead goal, it makes a big difference. So I would like to see what happens with that decision. And I don't want to see him be rushed back though. Isak's the whole thing about him coming into getting the big transfer, it's huge money. Obviously getting back and not being Premier League fit. That has to do with obviously Newcastle's treatment of him and also his own commitment to towards the regiments that he would have to put on before putting on the kit and trying to do a full 90 for us. But I'm not in the camp of saying that we should risk him. I'm more of there's other available options I would rather see. So it should be interesting, and it should be also Sweden working towards getting him fit and keeping him fit as well, because Sweden, I know, recognize, just as JK is saying, Sweden recognizes that he is one of the most important players on their team. Just plain and simple. Plain and simple. Obviously, are too big to risk an individual for the club. Okay. It's an interesting question. I mean, would you, in that case, Songs 4K and JK or Edward or whoever else is in the chat, would you risk Isak for 20 minutes versus City? Like, if it's the physios say yes, you got the green light to be able to put him on the bench. They give you a 20-minute max on him playing. Would you risk it, or would you decide? I mean, I guess I understand it. It depends on the scenario. But let's say we're searching for a goal. Let's say it's tied 1-1. We're pushing for that go ahead goal. Would you risk it, or would you maybe save him for more of a controlled UCL reintroduction, like against PSV? And obviously, by that time, we will have, I believe, have seen him already play for Sweden. So he would have already had that introduction back into the lineup. It's interesting. I see some are saying that they trust Ekitike and Chiesa and Mohamed Salah. I see that. It's an interesting thing to kind of weigh, because I don't know if 20 minutes of Isak is worth, him being possibly re-aggravating the injury and being out for another 2, 3, 4 weeks. Probably most likely when his hamstrings, like 4 weeks. Oh man. Ooh. All right. My water is got a kick to it. But it's small club behavior, says Song 4K, to over rely on an individual. Okay. All right. It takes a team certainly to rise up and definitely achieve the things that we're looking to achieve in this aspect. I agree with that. I look at it this way too. It brings it's a decent transition to the next, because like when you're talking about tilting the field, or an individual's impact on the game, or on this upcoming game, Slot's post-Madrid blueprint tells a story to us. Slot called it, the issue wasn't open play creation. It was set piece balance and concentration. I couldn't agree with our coach anymore. We were creating opportunities in open play. I don't know where we rank off the top of my head. Maybe Terry from the Football Terrace has looked that up finally, since he wants to always compare Liverpool versus Arsenal when it comes to set piece goals and the likes. It is set piece balance and concentration, simply put. And what I mean by that is having I'm talking about concentration on both ends of the pitch, whether it's set piece defense or set piece offense. Got to have a balance where you're able to properly get people in the right areas, marking the right people, utilizing the zonal markings if you're going to utilize that in the defense, going about yourself, showing a good balance of knowing when to direct certain free kicks or certain corners towards certain players that can create space, maybe because of the marker on them, or maybe just because there's this opportunity at hand. But against Madrid, Liverpool defended in layered ways. We had high press cues when triggers appeared. Then a calm, low block with Bradley and Robbo stepping on, I just call them precise clocks, if you want to call it that, like as in well-timed challenges. Arne Slot singled out Connor Bradley, again, rightfully so too, for elite 1v1 duels with Vinny Jr. This wasn't a smash and grab. It was structure that we saw on that back line. And when structure returns, individuals look like stars again. You might have some individuals out there trying to, I would say you might have some out there that are mistelling the truth about some of the things that I've been saying about our back line, especially when it comes to either Bradley or especially when it comes to Robbo. I just think I've been saying that our back line is a different entity when we have a structured group in the back line that trusts each other, I think is the best way to put it. When you have a back line that has played with each other to know what their tendencies are, when you have a back line that knows what where they like to shade towards or receive the ball, which foot they like to play off of. When it's a natural, instinctive set of motions that you can put into motion. you see what the result is. Now, I'm not advocating that Robbo needs to play left back every game of the season going forward. I'm not advocating that at all. But what I am advocating, and I would say the same for Bradley, by the way. Bradley's had a struggle with keeping his fitness. Robbo hasn't necessarily had a struggle with staying injury free. He's had more of a struggle with just keeping his fitness with his pace and the likes by having so much of a workload on his shoulders. He's still very active with Scotland. He's still very active, obviously, with us. He's the captain of Scotland. It makes a difference. So when I'm referencing these things, I'm speaking under the pretense that our fullbacks have sufficient alternatives that they can platoon with. And I think that makes a major, major difference in our stability in our back line. There will be opportunities for Kirkes to play. There will be opportunities for even Frimpong to play. Some people have Frimpong ahead of Bradley. Okay. Some people have Kirkes instead of Robbo. Okay, that's your opinion. We're all open to our opinions. We get that. But I realistically think that you see a difference in our team when you see a little bit of the comfort and the familiarity that you see in the back line when it comes to our center halves relationship with those fullbacks and vice versa. And it should be interesting to see what happens when it'll be very intriguing to see what happens when Frimpong is back fully healthy. Hopefully the Szoboszlai at right back experimentation. It wasn't even experimentation. Let's call it like call what it is. It was just, a player filling in a role that was necessary at the time. Our team needed a right back. Both right backs were injured. Szoboszlai stepped up. He has no interest in playing that. Emergency measures. Thank you, Songs 4K. Emergency measures. And that's exactly what it was. Emergency measures. And I don't want to see us in emergency measures any longer. It takes away one of the better players from our midfield, someone that is integral in our midfield. I think McAllister was incredibly important to our midfield last year. I think that has been the amount of importance of a player in our midfield has been replaced by Dom Szoboszlai this year. I said it in the very beginning of the year. The difference is between a lot of content creators. I've got episodes. I've got actual episodes that have those titles or thumbnails speaking on just that. And that's why it's very interesting. Or I keep saying interesting. It is very frustrating sometimes when you deal with some of the pushback you get from some people out in our community that try to call you out for this or for that. And I'm like, hey, you can just check the facts, bro. Check the library. I've got over 600. I'm closing in on 700 episodes that I've done talking about my beloved Reds and Liverpool related content. Closing in on 700 episodes. It's incredible. And when you look back at it now, it's wild that I've had so many opportunities to talk about my Reds. So I look forward to when people try to question some of the things I have to say. I like to always make sure that it's on record so that when people try to call me out on something, I can always reference back and say, here's my track record, Here is my track record. Here are my receipts for myself, I also ask this to the question, and you can answer this maybe in the chat. If you can't, you can maybe answer it in the comments. Which micro tweak did you spot midline spacing? Like Robertson's earlier starting position or Mac's vertical rest defense? Like, what was more interesting in what you saw? Was it Robbo's interaction with the midfield and going forward, or was it maybe Mac's um, um, Mac is back, or the Mac attack is back? Do you feel that Mac is back? Do you really honestly think that Mac is back and ready to rock and roll? It's a big, big question. Big, big question. We're advocating not to advocate 12th man's advocatism. Okay. All right. It's a lot of advocating, but I got you, Trap Joe. There was something that was very interesting. There was something that was very, very interesting that happened just recently. And that is Ajax have sacked their manager, their coach. And why it matters to Liverpool is a big question you might have on your mind, because Ajax is not obviously affiliated with us in any way. But Ajax have dismissed John Heitinga after a bruising, absolutely bruising run in Champions League. They had a Champions League collapse, I would call it. Why bring this into a Liverpool show, you might ask? Because the managerial carousel affects talent's pathways and January valuations. It's a lot. I get it. By Ajax's turbulence can maybe open or maybe even close doors. Salary leverage, academy friction, short-term exits. A real question would be, maybe do you bring back Heitinga? He was very successful with Slot. Successful enough to have gotten himself a coveted job. Look, Ajax is not a small time team. Albeit they're not to the glory that they were decades ago, but they're still one of the better teams in Holland. And they have one of the best youth academies in their youth academy system is one of the best, not only in Holland, but in Europe. But it is a quick question. Would you bring him back? Would you maybe find some type of a role for him on this team, on Arnie's manager or team coaching team? I don't think it's that bad of an idea considering the success we've had with him. He was our former assistant coach. That's what I'm speaking on. That's what I'm wondering. But if Ajax chase a reset with a big name return, players we scout might become either untouchable or available at a premium. It's going to be interesting too because let me pull up actually. I'm going to pull up Ajax's squad and take a look real quick at what they have, what they're working with. What is Ajax working with? That is a big, big question. Up here. We got you. I'm not going to go down that avenue. I see Trap Joe's who he wants to bring in. Let us see. So Mm, I don't know if Ajax have any particular player that you'd be interested in, to be honest with you. Look at some of their top players. Um, a lot they've gotten some of their players basically kind of have gone on. I know that we were looking at their left back for a little bit, but ended up going to Hato, but he ended up going to Chelsea. Defenders, though, I don't think they have anyone particular in their defense that I would be pushing over, pushing down doors to see us get involved in our squad. Um, I think actually, one second. Let me see. One second. All right. Um, there is a Japanese player that they have on their squad that's actually half decent. Um, but he's 28 years old, so he's way out of the frame of us getting players to bring in. I think we have to give Van Broxen a season to do his job. Maybe Heisen wants to be a head coach. That's a good question, Songs 4K. That is. It is a very good question. Who knows if it is? It's Brackenhorst is. I don't know. I'm just going from our success last year with making a lot of tactical changes or tactical maneuvers. A lot of those tactical maneuvers were influenced by the assistant coach last year as well, and they worked very well together. That's the only reason why I'm bringing that up as a suggestion. Um, I don't know. It was just a suggestion. Just a quick thought to bring out there. I can bring this back home. Let's bring this back home real quick. The captain. Let's bring this back home and talk about my captain, your captain, our captain. Um, the captain had his say, and an unlikely ally emerged, backing him up. Excuse me. Virgil labeled Rooney's leadership criticism or critique as being lazy punditry. And the twist to this is that of all people to rise to VVD's defense, it is Rooney's former teammate, Rio Ferdinand, who publicly backed Virgil's right to clap back, calling it leadership to confront narratives head on. I've been saying that I've been very vocal in my support of our captain. I know there have been some that have been questioning his ability to lead, and questioning whether he's a leader in general. Period. Some were calling for certain players on our team to replace him even as the leader on our team. I think some of those suggestions are very, very ridiculous, if you ask me, for my frank idea of it. But it was interesting to see Rio Ferdinand publicly back Virgil in this regard. And it matters because our dressing room is a fragile environment. It signals standards without the performative shouting some pundits crave. And that's what we get from Virgil. Virgil had the meeting. It obviously had some type of impact. Maybe the impact got relaxed in that following game after that. And then re-emphasized about the fact that we've got to return to whatever it was that mentality that we had going out of or going into that Frankfurt game. Leadership to me is composure and chaos. The past 2 clean sheets feel like a captain's imprint. It's clear messaging. It's disciplined distances between his his counterpart, his center half. It's accountability without panic. And I just thought that what Virgil had to say spoke volumes about how sometimes people think that, just shut up and play. And that's just not the case. Players often find themselves reading into what is being said. And it's next to impossible to avoid it nowadays, simply because when you have so many different outlets for people to voice and voice their opinions, whether they're former players, former coaches, whether they're just journalists or pundits, whether they are fans. There's so many different outlets for players to find commentary on them out there, and that's why when I hear it and I see it and I reference it and I commend the actions that you see sometimes as the response. I love VVD as our captain. I think he's one of our best captains we've ever had. I think that he has the opportunity to do something that no other Premier League captain has ever done, and that is be the captain of 2 Premier League winning teams. So I am rooting for Virgil van Dijk, and I am certainly high on his ability to play and also lead our squad. VVD said something controversial publicly or as of late. It was more about the fact that he went head-to-head with Rooney in an interview. After that game with Real Madrid, Rooney was one of the pundits that was at the interview desk, pitch side, and he's standing literally to Virgil's left, or possibly it's his right, but left if you're watching on the screen. And when he was talking, he was making a point to bring up the fact that, he thinks that Rooney's comments were lazy, that they were over the top, that they were, in my opinion, I think that they were just absolutely like clickbaitish. It's kind of like you're getting forced to make some type of statement, and here you are putting out some nonsense that really even I don't think you fully believe. So I just think it was that. It was that part. It was that part. Open up a little bit of another water for myself. That's at least what I was thinking. I wanted to get into a debate because this isn't going to be that long I know it's late, so I'm going to try to keep it quick. I'm trying to maybe do like an hour show today. I wanted to see what the chat was feeling about this premise. We all know that center half is a position that we need to strengthen. We have one of the best center halves. One second. We have one of the best players in the world holding it down for us, not only as our captain, but as our center half. We have one of the brighter upcoming talents in Ibu to his right. I'm very, very. I don't know about you, but I'm very, very high on Leone. I'm hoping that he recovers and he's able to make a resounding, um, you know, resurgence for his talents because he had a great debut. Unfortunately, layered with that horrific injury. And whoops. And um, what I would like to say is we do have Gomez as well. I know some people don't really trust in Gomez, and they're all thinking about what it is that could be with Gomez. Gomez in the future, most likely, it could be this season could be the last season that we have Gomez as a red in a Liverpool kit. But beyond that, there is a question of this. Should we wait for Guehi, who most likely will not be a January transfer for us, and make a move for Schlotterbeck this January? That would certainly impact what we do with Guehi possibly in the summer. Liverpool's depth took a hit, obviously, when Leone went down. Season-ending injury. He was going to be what Kwanzaa was for us last year. But the dilemma that I'm speaking on is, do we push for Mark Guehi, Premier League proven, would either be a decent fee, if we got him in January, which I don't think we will, or it'll be a free, which is a premium fee for us. He's homegrown, talented player, young, talented center half. Or do you pivot to Nico Schlotterbeck? Progressive passing, aerial presence, potential leadership arc. Had a recent injury. I get it. Has returned, and maybe that's a little leverage that we could utilize against Dortmund. Short term could be an incredible pairing with Virgil van Dijk. Medium term is we're inheriting that commanding player that we could utilize as a center half. Either path, we need some attention to the center half role to really have a depth when it comes to our defense. This push that we're going to be making to get back into the title contention. So what is it to you? What do you have as being the direction we should go? What is the direction you think we should go? I'm just trying to wait and see if someone gives me an answer, because I thought this was a very interesting. I know that there's been talks, really serious talks about maybe that we have an opportunity to bring this player in. Some want to go for Van de Ven from Spurs. Some are talking about Van Heck from Brighton. At least I was talking about that earlier in the season. Some were speaking on obviously Guehi as being a resource to try to push for. I don't think Crystal Palace is going to make that move, unfortunately, with the way that they have things going on. We will have to pay a decent price, despite the fact that it would be only half a year that we'd be getting his services. We still have to pay a decent price for a player that is coveted by Crystal Palace. So it'd be difficult to get him out of Crystal Palace. But if we do go for Schlotterbeck, is that problem solved at center half, and we just keep it moving? Because if budget dictates one major move only, is center back ahead of depth at maybe bringing in another ball winning six? Some might want to bring in another center forward, to be honest with you, considering that because of Isak being injured, maybe we need another center forward to solidify our front line. Songs 4K is saying he'd pay to avoid the auction in the summer. It's not a bad shout. Not a bad shout at all. I'm my broad order would be to bring in a center half, obviously, as my first means of whatever we do this January window. I think we will see us make some type of move this January window. And I'm hoping that it is for a center half. I just think that sometimes, like, you got to recognize, and this is just maybe the player agent in me, when you're bringing in a player, you've got to, if you're bringing in a player, are you bringing in a player for, are you bringing in a player as a stopgap, or are you bringing in a player as a future star? And some might even press that we bring in a DM. I get that too. Some are pressing that maybe we bring in a DM. I personally want to see us go in the summertime and bring in like a Camavinga or or maybe even a Tuchemeni. I know some people have soured on that Tuchemeni shout, but that's just me when I come. I think Tuchemeni is a talent. And I think that there's an opportunity to maybe poach one of those Real Madrid center DMs. But you tell me. If you tell me to chat, I appreciate it. But if you're watching this on the replay, or even if you're watching this and you're thinking about it and we've already moved on, then yeah, tell me in the comments. Tell me what you think. Tell me how you feel. All right, let me get into this last little bit of piece of this last little segment that I have, and that is the VAR. I wanted to really talk about this VAR decision. I was really upset about the VAR decision under this pretense. I was upset not because I didn't, I get the reasoning behind it. Maybe for some it's a handball, for others it's not. Maybe it's a handball in Europe, but in the Premier League, it's not. It's weird how there's very fine lines between the two leagues when it comes for the interpretation of what a handball is. But getting beyond that, what was frustrating too is that the referee called it to be a handball. The only reason why they went to VAR was to decide if truly the only reason why they should have been going to the VAR was to decide if the handball was either outside of the box or inside of the box. That's what I was hoping they would do, because we've seen less. We've seen less given as a handball. Well, that first half handball sequence versus Real Madrid was messy. On-field handball, VAR checks location, referee goes to the monitor, then waves off handball entirely and starts with a drop ball. There was an actual article that I saw that kind of went with what I felt as well, because ex-PGMOL chief Keith Hackett called Liverpool unlucky to not get that call. And even Mark Clattenburg, we all know Mark Clattenburg from the Nottingham Forest experiment. Mark Clapback said it should have stood as a handball with the location clarified after. The two issues here is the process for clarity. And the other portion of the issue is consistency. That is a handball 9 times out of 10 in a European match. 9 times out of 10, that is a handball in a European match. The referee saw it as such. You have ex-PGMOL referees vindicating what I was saying as well, which is it's a handball and it's in the box. If it's a handball, location dictates free kick versus penalty. If it's not a handball, explain the drop ball logic transparency. Fans aren't asking for perfection. We're just asking for a coherent protocol. And that's what I mean by consistency. That's what brings us all clarity to recognize when people say these washed out terms for us, live, var, pool. More often than not, that is not going to be a situation that brings you into where it should be. Big up to Pops, big up to Az Reynolds in the house, big up to both of you. I wouldn't mind, actually, and it's something that I've heard. They do it for, I believe, rugby matches. They also do it for like here in America. They do it like for college football. They give you an ear into what it is, what is being discussed. They give you an ear into the referees working out how they're coming to their conclusion. And I'm not disputing the fact that for some people it's a pen, for others it's not. I'm going off of the consistency of seeing. I'm going off the consistency of seeing that I've seen that call being made before in a European match. Whether it's soft or whether it's not for you, or I can give you all of that and then some. But I'm just trying to get the consistency of it all. If it's a pen in one game, it should be a pen in another. That's all I'm asking. Yeah, not against Real Madrid. Certainly not. They'll do backflips to try to figure out a way to make sure it's not a pen for against Real Madrid. But it's just one of those things. That's all I'm asking for is consistency. Ultimately, it didn't impact us. It didn't impact us. We won the game. I get that, and people might be saying you're crying over spilled milk, or you're making mountain out of a molehill, something, whatever you want to reference it as, but I'm just looking for consistency. That's primarily what I'm looking for. And sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't, unfortunately, when it comes to European, if not even for Premier League football. We don't get it when it comes to officiating. And that's the biggest calamity that we find when it comes to trying to have some type of enjoyment for some type of viewing enjoyment for ourselves, because it definitely raises our blood pressure to see us get shafted on some of these calls. All right. So we're an hour deep. I know it's a late one for a lot of people over in the UK. I am going to be wrapping up this episode because I have actually a big night for myself tonight. I have actually one of my good friends. He's a Brazilian DJ, and he just flew into town, and we have a big concert for him tonight. So it's going to be a very, very cool atmosphere and a very, very cool times. So I'm looking forward to it. I will be back tomorrow. I'll have I'm going to do a preview show tomorrow to make sure I don't get too boggled down with my concerts this weekend. And other than that, look, if there's something you guys want to talk about, drop it in the comments. I always have an ear to discuss things with you, give you my opinions, or give you a shout back if that is. If there's something that I said in today's episode, hey, comment on it. Tell me what you think. Tell me how I'm wrong. Tell me what I'm right about. Maybe do what you like. The comment section is your playground. But big game this weekend. Big game this weekend. I'm looking forward to this weekend. It isn't the final turn. I shouldn't say it like that, because it is certainly, we have a lot of steps that a lot of rungs on this ladder to climb to get out of this hole that we've dug ourselves into. But it will be a significant declaration if we are able to win this game against City, to realize that we are making a vested shout towards getting back into that contention of working towards defending our title, making it back to back. The hope isn't gone just yet. It's not gone. It's a long season. A lot of things can happen. It's not inevitable that one thing or another is going to happen. We've seen different results go a lot differently from whether it's from the impact of injuries or even just form or fitness and the like. So my Reds, keep your heads up. Long journey ahead of us, but as always, let's walk it together. Shout out to everyone that joined me today, and this week is where the adults are in the room. You know what I mean? We had some tough Salah talks. We had some careful Isak minutes. See if Isak gets the minutes that we think he's going to get, or if he's even going to get minutes at all. We're going to praise the smarter structure. You got to praise the coach when he gets it right. So definitely give him a shout out for that. And if we keep the emotions inside the work, Liverpool can leave the Etihad with something real. And that's all we're asking for. Let's bring a Red along when you come back for tomorrow's show. Like, sub, and share. And as always, up the Reds, my Reds. Up the Reds. Take care, and I will see you tomorrow.